So let's go over how to create our paper weaving today. So you'll have a bag with your paper loom inside, which is our piece of black paper that we cut on, and your painted paper that is cut into paper strips for weaving. So you can take both of those out, make sure that you keep your bag in a safe place so that you can put your pieces back in if it's not all put together in one day. So we're going to open up our paper loom. Make sure that your name is on the back side. So the side without any writing is the side that you're going to weave on. Notice that this finished one doesn't have the name on the front. My name is on the back. Because my paper is folded in the middle, I'm going to reverse the fold a little bit just by pinching the fold in the middle so that my paper lays flat. This will just make it a little bit easier when I start weaving in that area. With your paper strips, you can choose to try to put it back together in the order that you painted, or you can do it in a scrambled order. Either way is fine, but notice that on mine, I put it back in the order that I painted because I can see the purple here, the blue, the green, yellow, orange, and pink on the other side. It's kind of like putting a puzzle back together. So I'm looking at where the color matches up when I do this. And I'm just laying my paper strips out. This looks like it's in the right order. So I'm going to number my pieces by just writing on the back with the number of the piece. So starting with 1, 2, 3, and going all the way through until I number each piece. That way, when I weave, I can weave my pieces in order and I can put my puzzle back together. And remember, this is just optional. If you don't want your colors to line up or your design to match, then you don't have to number these and put your pieces back in order. It could also just be in a random order and it will come out really nice as well. So I'm gonna put my pieces of paper over here, and now it's time to start weaving. Because I numbered my pieces, I'm gonna look for number 1 and start with number 1. When we weave, we're going to use the pieces of our loom to weave our paper through. So we're going to use the pattern of over, under with our piece of paper. So when I do that, I'm starting with over, so I'm going over the piece of black paper here, then under the next one, over, under, and I have to pull my paper through a little bit, over, under, over, and under. Once you weave a piece of paper all the way through, we're going to push it down all the way until we can't anymore. Then we can fit our next piece of paper in. We're going to glue our pieces of paper at the end, just in case you make any mistakes when you're weaving. Then you can double check at the end that every one is right. Because I numbered my pieces, I'm looking for number 2 because this was number 1, so I want to stay in order here. And then with my next piece of paper, I'm going to follow that same order, except I'm going to do it in the opposite pattern. So I started here with over. Now I need to start first with under. I can tell because the pink is over the black on my last piece of paper. So I need to go under first, then over. And I'm keeping with that same pattern of over and under. Sometimes you might accidentally skip weaving on part of your loom. So notice how this area is too big. I went over 2 parts of my loom here and I made a mistake. So it's good to double check that you wove your paper through all the parts of your loom. So here I would need to take my piece of paper out and weave it correctly. So it should have gone over, under, and then over. Notice how my pieces of paper now alternate. I've started with over, and then I went all the way through, keeping with the over, under pattern. Then with my next piece of paper, I started with under, and I wove all the way through. Now I'm looking for piece number 3 to start my next weaving. So this will go back to starting with over. So I'm going to go over this part of my loom, under, and continue the over, under pattern. Every time you weave a new piece of paper, it's important to push your weaving down in place. Remember that we're going to be gluing this at the end. We want to push our weaving all the way to the bottom as far as it can go, because then you can fit as many pieces of paper in your loom. So my next piece of paper is number 4. Now I'm going to start with going under first because I want the black of my loom to show. One good thing to think about is on your last piece, did you start with your painted paper showing or is the black showing? And then for your next weaving, you do the opposite of that. So here my painted paper is showing. So on this piece, I want the black to show first. Then I need to continue with that pattern of over, under, over, under. Each time I'm just lifting up the part of my loom that I want my paper to go through and pushing down on the strip of paper. I'm going to continue my weaving until I reach the top of my loom. If you're weaving and you end up with a piece that has the same weaving pattern as the one below, like this one, then you know that that's incorrect. Notice how the pattern does not alternate. This piece needs to be taken out and woven in the correct pattern. So this piece went over first. This one should go under first. So just make sure that each piece is the opposite of the one before. You probably won't be able to fit all of your strips of paper into your loom. You'll probably end up with about 3 extra pieces of paper. So I am at the end of my loom where I can probably only fit 1 more piece of paper. I want to make sure that I'm pushing my strips of paper all the way down so that I have enough room for my last piece of paper. So make sure all the strips of paper are pushed as far as they can go so you have enough room. You don't want to end up with a lot of extra space here. If for some reason your loom is just a little bit too small, you can make a tiny cut on your loom to fit your piece of paper in. So I think I can fit my last one here. Now that I've woven all my strips of paper, the next step is gluing the ends of the strips of paper to the black piece of paper, which is our loom. You're gonna do this on the front and the back. Before you glue, make sure that you've woven in the correct pattern, and if there's anything you need to take out and redo, do that before you glue it down. Also make sure that your strips of paper are pushed all the way down and that they line up with the edge of the black paper. We wouldn't want it to be pulled out like this and then have a piece of paper that's sticking out. So once your strips of paper are in the right place and you like the way your design looks, then you're going to take your glue stick and just put a little bit of glue at the end and glue the strip of paper to the black piece of paper, which is your loom. Remember that you're going to do this on the front and the back. So I'm doing the front now, but I need to do the back after. I'm gonna go ahead and glue down all of my paper strips, front and back. So I would glue these down on the back. When you're gluing, make sure that you put enough glue so that it stays in place and you hold your pieces of paper together for a few seconds. So I am all done because my paper strips are all glued down on the edge and my weaving is staying in place. Make sure that there aren't any pieces that are coming up, and if there are, you need to add a little bit more glue. I hope you had fun making your paper weaving. I can't wait to see how yours turns out.